Panasonic S5 Mark II specs have just released, and should you buy the Panasonic S5 Mark II or should you maybe buy the S1H instead? Who should buy the S5 Mark II? My name is Paul, I'm a German filmmaker. I'm actually making some money with my camera. I'm a full-time freelancer in Berlin, Germany, and if you are maybe a hobbyist or if you're just starting out, I think you can purchase both cameras. Both cameras are very good. In terms of price, I think the Panasonic S5 Mark II will still be a little bit cheaper than the Panasonic S1H, and there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you that later. At first you see the specs here. I've looked through some specs and the specs are pretty impressive. It can shoot 6K 420 and it can record in probably 4K 120. I hope these specs and all these leaked informations are true. This for us an opportunity to look before the camera was released into the camera. It has 24 megapixels and it is a good camera. I think the S5 is a good camera, and the successor of the S5 now will be, of course, a little bit better in some terms. The autofocus system will be enhanced, I know. The S5, I have the S5 here, has not the best autofocus. The autofocus is terrible in this camera, especially when you combine it with a Sigma lens. The Sigma lenses are heavy, the glass elements are thick and heavy. That's why the autofocus is also so slow. The Lumix native lenses have such a slim lenses. They are very light, they can be moved very fast. That's why the autofocus in the Panasonic native lens are better, and they are also more expensive because grinding glass so thin is far more expensive than have these big thick elements of glass inside the lens. So that's the autofocus thema in this camera will be a huge step forward in the Panasonic S5 Mark II. It can probably record some new footages and new specs like ProRes, Apple ProRes. Apple ProRes is a pretty huge file format. It produces huge files. Maybe you need then better cards or something like that. And you can probably grade this material better. For me as a professional filmmaker, is this very cool, although I don't work with ProRes RAW files because my Lumix S1H or the Panasonic S5 cannot record ProRes. Is ProRes RAW the holy grail? Will you be then a better filmmaker? No. What is the difference between some codecs? Well, I got the Lumix S1H because of several reasons, and I make a video about that. The codec in the Lumix S5 Mark II are almost then the same as in the S5 Mark I or S5 versions. It is long GOP, and in the Panasonic S1H is all intra codec. There is a difference between both these codecs. The one codec is basically a little bit better for editing. The long GOP codec records probably with maximum 200 megabits per second, and the all intra codec with 400 megabits per second. Some people say that's not the difference, you cannot see the difference, but there is actually a difference. In your editing software works the all intra codec far better than the long GOP codec. Why is that? The long GOP codec works basically like this, that it records a frame, then it records after 4 frames another full frame, and all these takes in between the little frames are then maybe hard compressed in long GOP or interpolated, or the camera imagines the 3 frames between all these 4 frames, and that is compressed format, and a compressed format makes your computer work more to decompress it. Imagine when the footage when you import the footage in your player or in your editing software, the editing software has to decode the compression and then play the files back. That's why the often DJI videos are terrible to play, or the GoPro Hero 11 or 10 footage is terrible to play in the editing software because it's so highly compressed that you often have problems with your computer. Well, the Lumix S1H has all intra codec, and that works at least in my editing software of choice, which is Vegas, ultra smooth. Who should buy the Lumix S5 Mark II? If you are a hobbyist and if you're just starting out, or if you want to evolve a little bit and have a better camera than now, then sure, you can buy the S5 Mark II. That is a great camera. If you are working with your camera and if you consider to really work professionally with your camera, then I would not buy this camera because of the recording limit. And that's the reason I got the Lumix S1H, but besides some other reasons, of course. The recording limit in some cameras could not work for me. I'm a full-time filmmaker. Last week, simple example, I had last week an interview with a girl, and the interview was like over 1 hour and 10 minutes constant playback. Yes, you could say, well, I pressed then after 29 minutes the record button again, and then I do another take with another half an hour. But that works only when you can tell the person stop and I do another take. Imagine that was the situation like me many years before. You have an interview situation and the person you're interviewing wants to say something. And sometimes a monologue, when the person is saying something, takes 3, 4, 5 minutes. And when the monologue is starting at 29 minutes or 28 minutes, you see on your counter, oh, I have only 1 minute and so left. Then I have to cut and have to record another take. And then you have to say to the person, well, could you maybe stop and then start again? The Lumix S1h can record infinite as long as you have memory space and energy in the battery or in the V-mount battery or whatever. The S5 is not capable of doing this, and that's a problem. For me, would that be a problem? That's why I can work with the Lumix S5, and the occasions where you need unlimited recording times are rare, but if you're working 100% with your camera, then is this a big no-no. The Lumix S5 Mark II I have seen also a full-size HDMI. That's really nice. That was one reason I got the Lumix S1h. It can record 6K. Will this camera then be ultra better than the S5? I think a little bit, yes, it will be better. It's more new in terms of autofocus. The YouTube guys, which if you want to vlog, if you want to have a nice camera for your hobby / work, then get the Lumix S5 Mark II. If you want to save some money, you can of course go for the Lumix S5. The Lumix S5 will then experience a major price drop when the Lumix S5 Mark II is released, and probably we see some new lenses. Maybe we see another S1h Mark II also in 2023, who knows? And yes, if you want to have a decent camera, you can go for the S5. If you want to have a little bit better camera, go for the S5 Mark II. If you come from maybe a camera which is an only hobbyist camera, a big giant camera, let's face it, will not make you a really better filmmaker. You will not shoot all the time in Apple ProRes in the S5 Mark II because the file sizes are huge. I shoot sometimes in MP4 8-bit full HD for my clients, and sometimes I don't even grade the footage. I shoot, cut, deliver it because fast return times. The YouTube world is basically a little bit split. There are the filmmakers who need ultra vlog 6K, whatever ProRes. They grade the picture and everything like hell, and they tell you, oh, you need always the best equipment. And there are some working guys who actually earn some money with the camera, and the world is then a little bit different. You see that you then don't need all these things. You have to be good at filmmaking. You have to know how to light very well. I film now in 8-bit MP4 25 pictures per second in 4K on the Lumix S1h in MP4, and I will not grade this footage. That's maybe one take, deliver it straight out of cam into YouTube. So, hobbyist and starting out a business, Lumix S5 Mark II, 100%. It will be a great cam. Starting out, having a nice hobby, Lumix S5. Even professionals can work with the Lumix S5. I worked with the Lumix S5 for over a year. It made me a lot of money, a decent amount of money. I can say yes, I made some money with my videography work, but I don't know if it's cool to tell you that I made some money with this camera, because some people are jealous, and some people, we say in Germany, legen Auge darauf. They become a little bit jealous, and they think, well, this guy making some money, but why is he making some money? His videos are trash anyway. I don't know. And well, don't listen ever to the naysayers. Listen only what your heart and your mind is telling you. And if you go for the Lumix S5 Mark II, then 100% go for it. It will be a ultra amazing camera. And I have another video out, 5 reasons I like about the S5 and 5 reasons I don't like the S5. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more about my little camera world. I'm from Berlin, I'm full-time filmmaker, and I would buy the S5 Mark II if I had to. I Hope you make the right decision. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I'm excited to see some cool footage about the Lumix S5 Mark II, and I hope you have a nice day. I go now back to my editing studio, or well, maybe I go to the gym, I don't know. See you in the next video.